And I was preparing for something totally different. And then I finally got my shot. So you never know when that shot's coming, but you're always preparing so that when that time comes, you're ready. And that's all you can be. You got to be ready for that moment, because if you're not ready for that moment, you lose that opportunity, and that moment might never come again.
Yeah, which like ties back to that, just that element of paranoia. I think that like leads us into something that I wanted to talk to you about today when I reached out to you. Is so I seen the other day on Instagram that Mike James signed with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me the story about this guy. Obviously, like when you had been overseas at that point, you were like a trust source because you're not European, you're not an agent. You had been through the North American system. You had been a sniff away from the NBA, and you're still in that circle. So you were getting calls from people, GMs and coaches and scouts and all this stuff to basically tie in, or also on the European side of things about like who guys are, because you'll give an honest take as a player, someone who understands the whole spectrum. So maybe just tell the story a little bit about Mike James and just how it touches on you never know who's watching and how you always have to stay ready and what that's turned into for that guy. And just, I guess, your role in it.
But it's not just him. Like I remember when I was with the Edge, and I'd always say that to the guys. I was like, guys, you don't know, you know what I mean? And I could list off 20 guys, and it's hilarious. 2 weeks ago or a month ago, his name, remember Lewis was with us and was with a PEI, the jumper, what's his name? Lewis.
Oh, Marcus Lewis. Yeah.
Lewis. Forgot his first name for a second. I had a coach that coached me in Germany call me on Marcus. And I gave him the full spiel on Marcus, because Marcus just led the Switzerland League in scoring, had a real good year, and really turned the corner. I think those couple of years in the NBL, and then a couple of good years with PEI has really helped him. But anyway, I was recruiting, like I done recruiting on Nogueira, that was with Bebe, that was with the Raptors, Doncic, Fernandez, Luka, like Christoph Porzingis played with me in Sevilla. So like I'd have a lot of NBA GMs and stuff would contact me, and they'd always want the full scope. They can see like everybody else from the games, but they want to know how he is as a teammate. They want to know if they're partying, who's around them, what kind of lifestyle do they live, and the things that they can't see from watching the game, because anybody can put on a facade and show you what you want to see. So that's why I do a full 7, 8 page scouting report, strengths, weaknesses, where I felt they were in practice, what I, and my reputation kind of got out there as like, the guy to go to when they were looking at a player. So anyway, fast forward, I was in Greece and we were playing Kosovo, I want to say the name was light blue team. And we were going against Mike James, and we did our scouting report and whatever. And we were a better team, but we got matched up a fair bit. But going into the game, I had a call from my Spanish team. That was my coach when I was there. So this is Victoria. So this is a Euroleague team. And they wanted me to take a look at him, said, you're playing him tonight. Let me know what you think. So my first response when I called him, I was like, he's pretty good, but I just gave him 32. So I was like, you need a shooter. I was like, you need a shooter. I'm trying to sell myself. So no, I was like, they were looking for more of a combo guard. So they wanted a point guard that could handle the pressure, but they needed a specific player that could change the tempo of the game when he came off the bench. So they wanted a high energy scoring guard, combo guard. And so I went through it, talked to him after the game, told him, there's guys, there's teammate, there's a team that's looking at you, and I broke him down. He was, at that point, he was incredibly explosive, played offense and defense. First step was crazy. For what is he, like 6 feet?
I don't even know, to be honest.
Incredibly athletic.
He's definitely under 6'2".
Hold on, I don't want that cat to unplug the thing. So he was step back and incredible handles, change the speed, change the direction. I was very confused as to why he was on that team. So let's just paint the picture. I wanted to know more about him as a person and had a good conversation with him after him. Thought he was a great guy just on, as a person, just from initial conversation. So I called.
Yeah, and that's usually where you get the biggest look at who someone is when they don't know. They have no idea. It's just the initial reaction. It's just like, are you kind? Are you polite? Are you respectful?
That's what I was going for, because there's that common bond between North Americans anyway, because you're in a foreign country. But a lot of times people just blow you off and go on with their teammate. But like he was asking me questions, because I was at that point, I was, I had a pretty good career, and I was telling them, you gotta understand where you are, and you gotta fit into your culture, so these teams will accept you. Cheapers. So these teams will accept you. So you kind of have to understand that. I always tell kids and guys that go over there, forget that you're American. Forget that this is not America. Forget that your fast food and all that bullshit you eat is not here. I said, immerse yourself in their culture with their people, because they have a lot of great things to offer. I said, when you do that, you'll have success. They'll welcome you, and your money and everything else will go through the roof, because you realize that you're not in the NBA. The minute you forget that you never made the NBA and you work, the closer you'll become to making the NBA again. And a lot of guys go over there and can't get past that. So I was explaining that to Mike. And then right after, I called my coach. He said, how did it go? And I told him, and I broke him down to him. The next day they offered him a 2-year contract, and he left. So they bought him out. So you have to understand that he was probably making a couple of $1,000. And then he went to, probably 150, 200,000, 2-year contract per year. Then he signed huge. He played well with them. Then he signed a huge contract the next year. So big money. Then he went from there to Chesapeake, went on to Euroloeague teams. Now, Mike did his part and done what he was supposed to do. But if I had to call that coach and said, yeah, no, he's not it, they would have went on to the next guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it goes back to what you're saying. You never know who's in that gym. You never know who's friends with who, and you never know who's watching you. You know what I mean? So every time you step on the floor, or every time you step into the gym, you got to be the best version of yourself. Even if you're having a bad day, leave that shit at home. Nobody cares about it. Check that in. When you step onto the floor, you're going to be the best teammate, the best player on the floor, and the hardest working guy. And not only win games all the time, and then if you're dealing with something personal, deal with it on your own time, because technically you're getting paid to do a job. And that's what I always approached when I was there. So one of the best compliments I've ever got from past players and past teammates and past coaches is they said how hard I practice. They said, you were always the hardest in practice. I hated to guard you in practice. You physically beat the shit out of me every day. And I would try to beat you mentally. I would try to beat you physically. And then I'd try to beat you on the scoreboard, because I wanted to see if you were as tough as me. And I wanted to know then as well that when the fourth quarter hit, are you someone I could depend on? And that's why I always judge my teammates, because I was always judging at that standpoint. When our backs are against the wall, is it who's my go-to now? Who's my Batman and Robin? Who are we going to figure out to pull this team through? And that's how I always looked at it. But getting back to him and some of these other guys is you don't know who's looking. And I've done that. Connor is a perfect example. I went off Connor because of what you told me. And I said, okay, Doug, the coach called me and I was with you. We were in Vegas, remember, scouting. And you were like, Carl, he's a great kid. You're like, are you serious? I'm like, coach just called me. I told him I'm going to get back to him. I acted like he called me. I acted like I was in a meeting because I didn't know Connor. You know what I mean? So I said, I'll call me, or I'll meet you at this bar in X number of minutes in like a half an hour. Then as soon as I got off the phone, me and you went into the room and you gave me the full scouting report, the full breakdown. And I tried to get an understanding, so I wasn't like, shooting bullshit. And I took because I trusted you, I took your recommendation on Connor. And I picked up the phone, or I met the Spanish coach. And that next day, they signed Connor. You know what I mean? If Connor doesn't get right, go ahead.
And now Connor's playing ACB, top division Spain in the world, just so these people understand the context. Connor was my rookie when I was at UBC, so he didn't even get an NCAA scholarship. Now he was a late developer, and obviously Connor is 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan and could shoot the ball. But having said that, he was playing in New Zealand. Now there's nothing wrong with New Zealand, but now he's over there. He has a passport, just like you said. Everything's starting to work. But the thing about Connor is, like, Connor had that unwavering belief, and he stayed ready. It didn't matter to him, even though he was, by the time that he got to his fourth and his fifth year, he had really started to develop, and he was much better. Like you could have put Connor on Gonzaga at that point. That's how good he was, because he developed, right?
If you don't have that person there to vouch for you or give you that little plug,
no, for sure,
your whole trajectory could be different. Like he probably could have went to New Zealand and then Switzerland and be working your way to the ranks. Instead, you go straight to the ACB, and
Yeah.
then you'll probably spend the next 10 years in the ACB, and your
Yeah.
money will keep rising and your stock keeps rising. But if you never get that first shot,
Yeah.
you could stay in these lower league divisions and be
Yeah.
working every day to,
And then,
you know, to prove your worth, right?
yeah, and this isn't to like sit here and like pump up me and you, and this
No,
is
I'm
just
not
the way that,
pumping.
yeah, no, this
I
is
never
just the way
even
that,
mentioned that to Connor,
yeah,
nor did
this is
I
just,
mention it to Mike or anybody else. It's just,
this is just the way that the world works, and these kids
the way
need
the
to
world works.
understand, and not just kids, like adults need to understand this. Like, yeah, even in business, in anything that you're doing, you're always being evaluated, and someone is always watching. And the majority of people are haters, and the majority of people are looking for something to say something negative about you, because that's just the way that human nature is. So you have to be perfect, because even on your worst day, you could be having, like, just like you said, you could be having the worst day, man. And then you make that one impression. They might not remember you because you had an average day, but they will remember if you did something that was negative, or you brought negative attention to yourself, and then you put yourself in a box, and then you're screwed, right? So it comes down to ultimately, like, yeah, being good, being talented, working hard, excelling at your craft on the court. That's the price of admission. That's expected. That just gets you in the door.
That gets you
But
there.
what really separates you, yeah, what really separates you is your personal habits and who you are as an individual. That's it.